Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay and this is Linda's Investing. Today I bring you another guest from my community, one rental at a time. This is Renee. Renee, thank you for coming here. Thank you for accepting my invitation. And I will let you introduce yourself to my channel. Can you tell us a little bit about where you come from, what is that you do?
So my name is Renee Bliznikova, and I am originally from, well, I would say lots of places, but I spent most of my time in Oregon and moved to Minnesota in 2019. So I have been living here for the last 5 years, and it's definitely cold. So
Awesome. We were just talking a little bit before this video started, but you were just about to tell me like how you came up to investing in real estate and what your relationship with money was before that.
I'm a contractor by trade. I owned a landscape contracting business for 30 plus years with my ex-husband, and that company had its ups and downs. We weathered the storm through 2008 and, definitely came out, I won't say unscathed, because we definitely had to scale back and it was a struggle to just make ends meet, save our home, and all the things that everybody else was trying to do during that time. And I wouldn't regret anything that I learned during that time because it made me a stronger person with knowing how the market does. But I've never been an investor by trade. I bought my first home when I was a primary at 2000 when I was 19. And I think it was 1990. I think I bought my first home in 1990, and I bought it through FHA. So to it was like a hand up is what I would tell you, because they gave you a down payment. They helped you with getting into it. It had to be a certain square footage. All those things had to meet the criteria for you to, move into it. It was like $350 a month. And I mean, that sounds crazy, but that was my mortgage for a long time. And then we struggled over the years back and forth, owning businesses until my ex-husband landed in landscaping, and we grew that business where we could approach the bank to build a house. This was pre 2008 crash. And when we bought that and built that, we never expected that the crash would happen. I got my second with no dogs, 100 grand handed to you, no questions asked. It was a crazy, crazy situation. And, uh, and knowing what I know today, it definitely was crazy because the banking system was just handing money out and didn't even question what you were doing with it. They didn't care. They just handed it to you. But that in itself lended to what happened afterwards and why so many people couldn't bail themselves out of the housing market that crashed then, because they were overextending themselves. As investors, I wasn't an investor then, so I didn't know what that all meant. But the investors came in and they literally just gobbled it up, and they made bank. And that's what I've learned from Zuber and all the investors today, is that crash helped investors become more secure in what they were doing. I really feel that I don't feel that we're going to have that kind of a situation right now, but I do feel that there's a downturn. And so my first property I bought was 30 days ago. I closed on March 31st, 2025. And that property, if I was to go back and tell you would I buy that property, the answer would be no. And somebody would say to me, why are you saying no? This was a property that my daughter had sought out. So my daughter approached me. I had pulled out all of our 401k investment. a little over a year ago, maybe probably 18 months ago, when we had a downturn and we lost 40 or 50 grand in our 401k. And I was like, you know what we got back last year? $5,000. That's not a plus. And I'm like, 5,000 over 40,000. I don't like the odds. So we pulled out all of our money out of our 401k and I stuck it into a high yield savings account. We're making 5%. And then we started seeing a shift happen where interest rates started to calculate a downturn on that. So right now I'm making 4.25 on my high yield savings account. And I said, okay, let's got to jump in or jump out. Either we're going to jump in and buy something or we're going to not buy anything at all. So my daughter contacted me and she says, Mom, I want to look at houses and you can buy my house in Buckeye and you can do a subject too. And all the things that we had approached her a year before. And she was kind of like really leery about it. So she approached me and I was like, okay, what's going on? Send me your market, send me your real estate agent. And he's really good. He's an investor himself. And I said, okay, send me him. But I would tell you, I bought this house and this house is definitely not a rental property. This is a primary rental property. And why I say that is that there's a lot of extras in this house that if I was a investor, I would have said, you're wanting premium. I'm not paying premium for your house because I want this, which is just good counters, good cabinets, good flooring, good this, but not over the top. His is a little bit more over the top. And so I told her, I says, you're going to pay this if you want this. And she agreed. And so we bought it. But if I was to go back to you and tell you that if she moves from this house, whether I will keep it as a rental property, it's a question mark. There's a big question mark whether I would keep this as a rental. I might sell it as a primary residence and get out of it because I think nobody wants to pay that premium for that house if it's not a rental. Most people think of those houses as it's not theirs. They're not going to take care of it the same way you would take care of it. So if you're not going to do that, that's better left for a primary residence to buy that house. And so that's what I would tell you. That was a very hard thing for me to really take into account, that I actually helped my daughter out. She doesn't see it. Believe me, kids don't see it. But I would tell you that that is my first investment. Should I have done it? The jury's still out. I'd say the jury's still out on it.
Right, right. You just acquired the property, and then like for people that don't know, she's investing in Arizona. And Arizona, why did you pick that market aside from the fact that your daughter was already there?
Tenant friendly, so you can get somebody out in 30 days. Lower taxes. So they are significantly lower than what I have here in even Minnesota. So I would tell you that those two key things, and they don't require, you have to register your rental properties, but there's no fees involved with registering your rental properties. Those three things I think is still key, because there's a lot of places that are requiring a fee for every rental property. Taxes are definitely higher than where, geographically people are looking at. They do have HOAs, and I would probably tell you that most of the communities are more pro HOAs than non-HOAs. So you're going to pay those.
Yeah, I heard that about Arizona for sure. But the most important thing, like here, you brush over a lot of techniques. Initially, you started with using FHA, which is like benefit you because you have the low down payment and $350 for a mortgage. Like, how is that more
That's
expensive than
crazy.
renting?
That's
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
Well,
And
let me tell
then
you that the price of that house was $42,000.
$42,000.
1990,
That's like a
95.
Nissan Sinatra or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. When I sold that house in 2006 or seven, it was 180,000. So
Wow.
yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
already were building this like concept of like, oh, real estate does go up, real
yeah,
estate does
yeah,
appreciate.
yes,
And then you did the build to own, right? You built
yes,
a house
yes,
on a piece of
yes,
land. And then you just totally threw subject to. And then
yes,
subject to is something that it's part of creative financing. And a
yes.
lot of people are not well versed with subject to. Would you mind explaining to us what that means?
So I'm I would tell you that I would never have done subject to if it wasn't my daughter. And that's my personal but there are so many people out there doing subject twos as a business philosophy, which means that's all they do. So the guy that here in Minnesota that was I would say my go-to asking questions about subject to. He does those, and that's all he does. He does also another thing with buying property without houses and selling them. But I I just feel it's a risk, and there's a huge risk with her. Mitigating it is that she's my daughter. She could easily transfer that title to me because we're family. So she could easily say, oh, yeah, I'm putting in trust for my mother. She's my mom, and da 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 da. But when you don't have a family member and you're doing subject to, there's risk because they can call the note. They can actually say, we're not agreeing to your subject to, and because you did that, we're going to make you pay your mortgage out right now. We're going to call the note. And that's what a lot of these is with regards to the risk. We protected ourselves by putting it into a trust, by allowing her to stay on the title because she's still a mortgage holder. Until I pay off the debt, she still is required to be on the, on the deed. And then the other things is that we quick deeded it. We did all of the legal things and Arizona is very familiar with subject to. So I would tell you certain states are frowned upon subject to. So that's what I've heard. And those would be questionable states that I would look into before you actually enter into a contract with subject to. But with her, I knew the legality was minimal because if I had to buy her out, say I had to go buy this house, I could do it. I wasn't worried about it if I had to. Do I want to? Not necessarily, but I'm not really paying. So I will tell you, I'm not really paying a low interest. So I will tell you the terms on her house. So here's kind of the skimmy on her house that somebody doesn't understand. So when I approached her with subject to, I looked at Zillow. Don't ever look at Zillow. There is so much falsity in Zillow that I would never look at that as a golden. Always do your due diligence to check out the title, the bank statements, everything. The if there's any liens on these properties, because Zillow does not present all those things. Zillow does what they think is, oh, somebody bought this house and they probably put 20% down and da da da. They actually don't see the bank stuff. So I will tell you that they don't. So when I looked at hers the first time, going into this agreement, I thought she owed a lot less because I thought she put 20% down. So then
Mhm.
I went to my daughter and I says, um, let's look at your mortgage statement. She sent it to me and I was like, how much did you put down? She says, oh, we got an FHA. I
Mhm.
said, so how much did you put down? And she showed me. And I'm like, okay. and you have a lien already on your property. Okay, well, oh, believe me, there's further. I says, you have a lien. And I said, okay. I said, I can't do this at what you're asking. I can't give you what you want, which we originally agreed to. There's no way, because what I thought was this, and this is what's accurate. And so she backed out for a while. And she's like, oh, and we were already in contract for the house that we were.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we were in the contract for that. And we're like, okay, Dee, she might not want to sell to us because she's top heavy, which means we're going to have to rent this house. So we either back out right now and we lose our $5,000 earnest money that we agreed to non-refundable, or we proceed forward. So we proceeded. And there was a lot of reasons. We went back and forth before we did it, but there was some, logistics into it, but we agreed to it. We moved forward. And then she came back to the table. And she says, okay, well, I'll sell you my house for this and for this and the lien. And we're like, okay, so we move forward. That was several days into it. And then she calls us again and says, oh, I forgot to tell you. You know, when COVID happened, we got a freebie from the government. Do you know what the government gave to people during COVID? They gave them especially FHA. So be very aware to look at loans right now. They gave them they gave them free money. They basically paid the mortgage company, but they tacked it on to the end of the loan, interest free, as long as you own that loan. So as long as we don't take that loan out of her name, that $12,000 that they tacked on to the end of her loan is interest free. And I said, okay, well, here's the agreement. I'm not taking your 12,000. You're going to cover that. Here's what I'm going to do. I will give you this in your lien, which was her pool. She put a pool in, which I'm already against. I'm against the pool. Just saying, that's the thing she should have never done. So I'm going to take your existing 308,000. I'm going to take your pool lien that's 38,000. That $12,000 I won't take. So I'm going to tell you in my contract is they want to be able to buy in a couple of years. Freebie money again. They want freebie money again. My daughter doesn't understand. Get out of the freebie money. I'm going to tell anybody listening right now, do not. I know the government helps you. I know you think they're helping you. They're not. They're just dragging you down. Do not do the freebie money. If you can't put 20% down, save until you can, because that free government money is not free. You're going to pay it some way, some form. You're going to pay it. So I told her, I says, your smartest move is to save 20% down. When you can do that, you should buy a house. I honestly 100% think you should buy a house. And I'm going to make sure that this deed that I'm holding and is subject to is not a counter to you. If you need me to refinance it, I've never messed my finances up where I can't refinance that house. I promise you, I could probably go right now and refinance it. But am I paying less right now? No. And that's where me and my husband has talked about. The only thing saving her right now is that 12,000. If I could go refinance that house right now, probably save myself some money, because she's got a PMI. She's got 4.25 plus a PMI. So I'm paying almost 6%. If you take the PMI and that interest rate, I'm paying almost 6% right now.
Oh, okay. So it is 4.25, but there is a PMI.
Yeah, there's a PMI. So, and that's what I said to her. I says, I'm paying your PMI. I'm paying your 4.25. Let me tell you, you're not saving me any money. I'm saving you. She doesn't look at it that way, but I am. I'm saving her. And I said to her, I says, Here's the bottom line is there's gonna come a point that B&D doesn't want to pay that PMI. Interest rates have lowered enough that I don't want to pay that. So you need to be prepared. I've given her 12, or I've given her 24 months to
Mhm.
figure it out and to
Years.
pay that $12,000. Because if she doesn't pay it and I get interest rates in the fives, I'm gonna refinance. I'm gonna
Mhm.
refinance that house. And I'm going to ensure that she's gonna have to take care of that $12,000 loan because that's already in an addendum that we signed that she has to take care of that HUD loan. Because it's a HUD loan. If you want to look for it, it's a HUD loan, HUD loan, that a lot of these properties look for it. Because
Mhm.
if they haven't showed it, I would check for it because some of these properties got them. And it's a thing that, like I said, this is literally days ago that we learned this, and I'm like, what do you do?
So new new information.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to explain a little bit of sub two for people that don't know. So, for example, in Renee's case, she had a daughter that had purchased with the FHA loan, the down assistance program. She had put really low down payment. It could be as little as 3.5% or 5 or 10, whatever. But one of the things that happens here is because she is low leverage in her house, she doesn't really have a lot of equity. And now the interests are higher, like in the 6 and 7s, for Renee to go and get and purchase a new house with 20% down, her payment would be higher. But if she takes over this loan, which her daughter has, which is by the strategy called subject to, what Renee's daughter can put Renee on the title, meaning sell her house to Renee, and then her daughter will continue to be showing up on the mortgage on that loan. So that's what is called subject to. So Renee is taking possession of the title of the house, but the daughter continues to be on the mortgage holder and the name. And that benefits Renee because of her daughter purchased that home at a 4% interest rate. But like we mentioned, there's more things to this particular loan, but that's basically how it benefits you in this time of era where interest rates are higher, where everything is like a little bit more expensive. And another thing is that Renee's insurance and taxes remain the same.
Yes.
When you sell a house, we all know that they get reassessed because of the sale of the purchase of the house. So right now, Renee's taxes and insurance stay the same, which also is another benefit
Yes.
of buying subject to. Subject to has become very popular in the last few years. If anybody hears about Pace Morby, he's the king of subject to. And then he breaks it down very easily, where it's no longer confusing. So if I'm doing a bad job explaining it, please do check out Pace Morby because he will tell you all about it. But it's a way of selling houses via creative finance, not conventional, not just selling through FHA or conventional loans. So it's a creative way of acquiring properties. How did you learn about subject to, Renee?
So I was on a video. I didn't learn through Pace. So Pace actually came up to me recently in the last 30 days, 60 days. I was I think I was at a Minnesota a group that they were talking about it, and I was like, what's subject to? What's subject to? And they were talking about it. And like I said, there's a lot of complexity to a lot of these ways of creative financing. So I would tell anybody that if they're wanting to do these creative financing, learn about the downfalls of them. There's a lot of benefits to a lot of them, but learn the downfalls, because I would hate for somebody to jump into something that actually causes them more, headaches than not. So with the subject to, it was just an easier way I knew that she owned her house and wanted out of her house. And so I knew she had a low interest. I didn't know about her. I knew she probably had a PMI, but I didn't know what it was at that point. And that was prior to her putting the pool in. And when she put the pool in, I was like, you know, you have a lien on your house. So I would tell you, so I did mention this yet, and I'll mention this. So we're going to pay off her pool loan by December 31st. I didn't want to pay it off now because we're in investing mode right now, and we want our cash reserves available to us. And she was like, I was like, why do you want me to pay it off? It doesn't benefit you. I'm paying the payment. It doesn't matter. I'm paying she has a 10.5% interest on that loan. And I says, it doesn't matter to you whether I make a payment or pay it off. Why do you want me to pay it off? You're not buying anything. So that was kind of my concern when she was like, oh, we want you to pay it off. And I'm like, why? Why do you want me to pay it off so soon? So it kind of drew a little bit of red flags, because when most people do that, if somebody brings that to you, that means they're wanting to finance something. They want something off of their credit for them to be able to finance something. So she's my daughter. I could ask a few more questions with regards to that. But when it comes to somebody you don't know, I would say that would be a red flag. Are they wanting to purchase something that could jeopardize everything? Because these things are still in their name. Their mortgage is still in their name. All these if they have any liens on the property, are still in their name. So I would be questioning that. It doesn't work. If you're paying those payments, it doesn't work against them. You're paying the interest, not them. You're paying the payment, not them. So the only thing that is actually against them is that it's on their credit. But the loan is still on their credit. So it really doesn't matter. That loan means that they can't go buy something without them showing that it's been rented for 6 to 12 months. You can actually do a subject. So I don't think people know this. So it doesn't eliminate you from going to buy something. So say you have a subject to, and that's on your credit. They've got a contract against you. That does not stop you from going to buy even another FHA. You can't buy in the same state that your FHA loan is, but you can go to another state. So say she owned one in Arizona, but she wanted to move back to Oregon and buy an FHA house. She could go to Oregon. And as long as I have history sorry, my dogs. Sorry, say that I have history of a renter in that house for the last 12 months. That would give her enough credit worthiness for her to go do another FHA in Oregon. She can't do it in the same state she was in, but she could go to Oregon or any other state to do another FHA loan. And that rental history proves that that is not her loan, that somebody is actually paying that loan. So, but she wants it out of her name in 2 years. So we agreed to it. There was certain stipulations to this subject too, which was 2 years, we would be out of it unless she can't get out of that 12,000. So just say, so here's some question marks you would have to ask yourself. So say in 2 years, we could buy her out. We could go to the bank, we could do a finance, but she still owes that 12,000. Say she can't pay it. What do? Do you continue the subject to until she can pay that loan? Do you do another loan at a certain interest rate because she's went past that 2 years and now she needs to pay towards that $12,000? So those are questions that me and Dimitri ask ourselves. And I said to him, I said, well, I'm willing to give her 2 years. I told her she should be making payments to us. Don't, how do I say, don't ignore this. You know how kids are. They like to ignore things. I said, don't ignore it, because that will get you into a situation where in 2 years, we're ready to say, okay, let's get you out. Where's the
Mhm.
$12,000?
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at with this, is that it is a $12,000 kind of a,
Question mark hanging on you.
it's hanging there. And so we're gonna play it out and see how it plays, but I will keep telling her, don't ignore this. If you ignore this, this will come to play. And we're not gonna just accept, because eventually we don't want to pay 6% if we can get 4%. If interest rates ever drop, why would we want to stay in the sixes,
Right.
the PMI? I mean, nobody's gonna want to do that. And that's kind of our thing, is that we're volatile in the market to, I'll pay 10%. I mean, like Zuber right now, he's like, oh, we can pay 10%. I'm like, Zuber, please don't say that. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I
we could. And, but
Subject to, it's very complicated. It's so creative that it just raises so many more
yeah,
scenarios for you to deal with it when it comes to getting out of the house, like exiting out of the house. If your plan is to buy the whole and put a renter there, then you're relying on the rental income. But let's say you are not able to play a renter in there, then you're not longer cash flow, so you're not making money. So you need to have an exit for the house, right? And like you're saying, one is refinancing out of your loan with her. And then another one, it would be selling the house, right? But when pitching, say, subject to a seller, they're like, well, I don't know what subject to is. Like, I would want to cash out of this house and move and purchase another house. And then you can, but you have to establish some history, like you said, of rental that somebody else is paying the mortgage. So now they take that into consideration, or the debt to income ratio. And then you have to go also to a lender that knows of subject to. It's not like you just go to a lender and then say like, well, we can qualify you because you have this mortgage over here. And I'm like, no, but this mortgage is being paid, right? And not like it's being paid by the renter. So I have a history. So that should not qualifying me for another loan. And like you said too, a lot of people that are having FHAs are under the impression that you cannot get another FHA, and that's not true.
that opens the door to potential investors to understand that they can do subject twos, and really reiterate to the seller that it doesn't limit them to buying in the future. It actually allows them to, because they can approach their subject to buyer and say, listen, I just need your rental histories because I'm looking to buy another property. And that's the thing, is it's just a compounding thing. And I think we limit ourselves to thinking we only have one mortgage. But as an investors, we could have 100, loans. And that's kind of the key thing, is that it's not one loan, it's just how you market that loan to
Mhm.
to other people. So I would tell you that, I'm not against subject twos. I probably wouldn't do one other than my family, just because there is some risk involved in it, but there are a lot of investors out there doing subject twos and are making money. They're making a lot of money doing it
Mhm.
because they can sell it as a lease, they can sell it, and upsell it. To me, I'm looking to stay, I'm more at Zuber's. He said, I had to take a account about what he said when I said, yeah, I got two houses. And when he said that, this is the funniest thing. When he said that, up in my little corner, I get a real estate update from my agent who says, we're under contract. They accepted your offer. And I'm like, Zoomer just said, don't buy another one. Yeah. So we were on last Sunday's call, and that's not even a lie. Literally came up across my thing, and I'm like, because he's saying, just take the two you have, work them,
Mhm.
learn them, and
Mhm.
be able to do the next one. And that next one came way sooner. And I told my husband, I says, okay, we're gonna push through this one because I made the offer. I'm not backing down, but I do agree with him. we need to settle down into these three, figure them out, because they're not in state. I'm not in state of those, so I'm traveling. Like I'm going there on Friday. And, though I got my daughter and I got a real estate agent that I trust, and I got a good team when it comes to lending, I would tell you that it's still about learning the property management part of it, and that I am scared to freaking death about the property management. I am so scared. I am so fearful that we're going to lose our ass so much on the property management. I am literally stayed up late at night, having bad dreams, waking up in the middle of the night. Those are all things that are happening right now
This
because,
is why I wanted to interview you because you're at the beginning of the
yes.
process.
Oh, I'm very much. Property management is not something I'm familiar with in any length. And so to deal with that, I'm scared. I'm
Mm.
scared. I'm scared about losing on my rents. I'm scared about losing on finding somebody that doesn't pay. I'm scared about renting and it staying vacant for longer than I can handle. I'm scared about them taking care of the property. I mean, there's so many things. I'm scared about finding the right property management because I'm not in that area and I'm not familiar with that area. So all those things are like red flag, red flag, red flag.
Okay. So have you taken steps to reaching out to property managers now? Okay.
So I've called and I've gotten some feedback, and they're all across the board. They're anywhere from charging 10%. So if you're getting $2,500, think about that. 10% is $250.
Mm-hmm.
That's just monthly for them to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not for them to rent it. That's not for some of the extra things. So when you start totaling that into your yearly fee, how much do you think that's going to take out of your profit?
Almost $3,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the key thing that you start thinking. Can these markets sustain themselves? Can you make money in these markets with the rents that are being charged? And that's what's scary to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When running your numbers from the beginning, were you contemplating self-managing?
Yes,
Okay.
because my daughter is a property manager.
Oh.
Right? Oh, no, no, no. Yes. Thank you, Lindsay. I said the same thing. I said the same thing. And she was all for it. But you know how family is.
Mhm.
Let me tell you about family. Family, you should probably never do business with because they will always shift on you. She was great as long as everything was going her way. As soon as it wasn't, she was like, I don't want a property management. So I was coming back from Arizona my last trip, and I get this text message, and it's a property management company that she sent me. And I'm like, why are you sending me a property management? Are you not going to didn't we agree that you were going to manage these two properties, the home you were leaving and the home you're moving into? And she's like, well, about that. Well, I come to find out, I already knew why she did it because originally, so our real estate agent talked about the washer and dryers in each unit. And she didn't like the washer and dryer that was in the unit she was coming to. And she had just bought something at her old house that I was taking over her subject to. And I was for her. Here's the thing. I said she could swap out the washer because she couldn't swap out the dryer because they were gas and one was electric. But I said, you can swap out the washer to your newer one. But she didn't like that I had said that they both had to stay and she couldn't sell the ones at her old house in Buckeye. And so she shifted. That was her shift. And I said, okay, this is where communication happens and a breakdown happens. And I said, I just think we should have a contract for everything. And so we just
Mhm.
proceeded forward with contract. So everything from that point forward has been a contract, no matter what. I think with family is that you're going to get a lot of concessions that they want from you. And if you're willing to give them, great. If you're willing, I have no problem. If you can work out with your family, you can give concessions that make your numbers work okay. But what I was doing was, so she was allowed to move into my house with no deposit, no
Mm,
pet deposit. She has 2 dogs. And I was actually making sure that it was move-in ready, which
mm,
meant everything was working. Nothing didn't work. Everything. I literally made sure there was a liner underneath the sink, so because for leaks, uh, uh, plungers for the bathrooms, extinguishers for the kitchen, uh, faucets were all working because there was one that was leaking, so I replaced a new faucet. So I was doing like everything to make sure it was move-in ready, and to me, it was like I felt like the same consideration because that was the consideration that I gave her, was that you didn't have to pay a deposit, which is 1.5 the rent, and a pet deposit, but you were gonna manage this. Well, her management is now to be, just to tell me what's wrong.
mm.
So,
You purchased two houses, right? Like her subject to and a different house. So
yeah.
you're saying that she's the renter of the second house now?
So she's just gonna take care of the house she lives in. That's it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not the subject to. That was the agreement. The agreement was she was gonna take care of both.
Mm,
But when she turned, I decided, and both my husband and I sat down and we said, I don't want any issues in the future. I don't want to have to worry about, because so Arizona is not, so I would tell you, if I could tell anybody about buying in Arizona, they're not close. You drive a long distance. So
mhm,
Buckeye and Peoria, there's like 40 minutes. It would take me to go from her original house to where she's going to now live 40 minutes.
mm,
To me, that's a long distance. It's not like short 20 minutes.
mhm,
And so to me, it was like, I had to take into consideration that. And so when she says, well, I don't want to maintenance my previous home, I was like, okay. So we upped her rent by $100. And I said, well, you're going to still maintain your house. I'm not going to manage it. Like, I'm not going to send somebody. I'm going to come look at it once every 3 months. And if she doesn't like that, well, tough, too bad, terrible. But I'm going to come look, make sure everything's being taken care of. The filters are being changed. Nothing is in disarray. But I'm not going to bring a property manager there and actually pay somebody to manage it.
mhm,
With her Buckeye home, we've decided to manage it with a property manager, along with our new purchase in Grand, which is in Sun City. So we're going to do those two, and they're about 30 minutes apart from each other. But I decided I just didn't want to take on like headaches about worrying about whether she was taking care of it. So I
mm,
just said, okay. So we upped her rent and took over the property management part of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's going to pay a little bit, we're going to pay a little bit more out of pocket, but it's that self peace of mind that, hey, it's being taken care of. I would tell you right now, property management is probably killing people more than anything else. I see the smile on your face, so you understand how you're just like, how do we rein this in? I mean, do we
Mhm,
self-manage? That's my biggest thing, is that I don't live there. I wish I did. I don't. So I have to do a property management. It's probably going to kill us over the next 3 years, but we plan on moving there in 3 years. So hopefully we can maybe rein that back in with ourselves. But I'm going to probably tell you, the honesty is we're probably going to pay over. We're probably not going to break even. I'm just going to be with everything. We're probably going to be over. And I know it. I know it. But do you not do it, not invest? Those are the question marks you're going to have to ask yourself, is those are what I think going into this next year, is that we need to evaluate deals.
Mm-hmm.
bigger deals.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, those things are going to kill you in the long run. And as investors, I think we're trying to keep as much money in our pocket that we can. And that's my thing is that's what I'm scared about.
Yeah, yeah. And those are important things to underwrite, right? Like I know that you didn't have the plan to property manage. That was not on your spreadsheet. That was not when you were running your numbers. So this is unexpected. And it is 10%, at least normally standard market rate for property management is 10%. And I think it's something that the lumberjack, Jack the lumberjack.
Yeah, lumberjack.
Yeah. He always mentions, are you okay with your property manager making more money than you with your
They
house?
do. They do. Believe me, they do. That's it. That I
Because it
realize.
is a standard 10%. And then when we're looking at deals, we are looking for some
We get 6 or
cash flow.
7%. Sometimes
Mhm,
not even that. Sometimes we
mhm,
don't make like 5%. They're making 10% on our money. And you're like, why are they making more than us?
mhm,
And
mhm,
so that's where I think if anywhere we can improve on, it's in our fees with property management. I think if somehow we can tailor that down, we've learned it how to do it in our closing, because go to closing. Most closing companies, title companies will give you a discount as an investor.
mhm,
Most real estate agents will give you a discount as an investor. But we haven't worked it out with property management
mhm,
because they've learned that they can make money off of us. My real estate agent said to me, he says, well, me and my wife has thought about opening up property management. I says, I'll be your 50%.
First customer.
Oh, no, I'll be your 50% capital.
Oh,
Oh,
so you're.
I will come to the table with 50% capital to be half owner. I
Mhm,
know, no. That's the key thing is if we're going to be in Arizona, I told him, I says, why are we not investing in property management? Why
mhm.
don't we own it? And I started looking up property management companies for sale in the,
Oh.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I said, why are we not? I don't need to be there.
Mhm,
If they have a system in place, they're running good, and I can come out and take a look at what they're doing. I can actually look at the numbers and see if they're actually generating what they say they are. Why can't I buy a property investment or
mhm.
property management company in Arizona that can manage my own properties?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
I
mean,
think once you do have more units with the property manager, you can navigate a discount. I
yeah.
know, like for example, so I think he's mentioned he gets 5%.
Oh, that's
I'm not
nice.
100% sure this is accurate. I heard it on so many videos in the past, but because he has north of
Yeah.
200 properties, he does get like a cut. And then I know, like in my area too, if you do multifamily, for example, you also get 5%.
There are some companies in Arizona, but you have to have like 3 or more. And then they give you like a $10. It's like a $10 off. And I'm like, you know what, that's great. Here's the thing, I get it. And I think there's more property. Some properties need more management than other properties, and that's kind of the key thing. It's it's not that I don't want to pay them for their services. I really do. I think they deserve their for what they do. It's just that when you start breaking down the numbers overall, are you able to make those numbers work? Are you able to cash flow with those numbers? And I really believe Zuber's with his alligator don't have an alligator. And that's kind of my biggest fear, is having a property that is costing me more every year than what I bring in.
Mhm.
And I don't want to have those. Yeah.
I'm kind of brainstorming here, but what if there's such a thing as like a la carte property management? For example, my property manager charges half the rent of
Oh,
every place tenant, right? Would if your daughter is a property manager, if she was to do for you just placing the tenant and she would charge you a fee for that, but not managing continuously, would that work?
Oh, I think that would be awesome. Yeah. And that's the thing is that just finding that, I mean, so she currently still works for a company that's owned by Open Door. And she, so here's what so I go back to when she stepped into property management. She started working for a company in Oregon that solely does just property management. They rent and everything you could imagine, you know, just placing the tenant walkthroughs and all those. And when she left there, she went to work for a company that was at a leasing agency where they were basically leasing townhomes. And so she did that. And then she started working for Open Door, their main company. And then when she got laid off, she went to go to work for a company that was like a secondary company. And what she does right now, so I'll tell you what she does right now. She does HOA. So she calls up the legal companies, like their attorneys and stuff, to take care of the HOAs that are pending or transferring or doing all that stuff. So that's what she's doing right now. But she's basically handled a lot of different, like I would say, steps involved in it. And that's what I like I said, had I not gone on her bad side about the washer and dryer, I mean, it's a personal thing. And that's what I tell you, these stupid things. And I actually, so we had taken possession of the house that she's going to move into. And she picked that. So she was calling me. We actually were booked on a cruise. So I'll tell you some backstory. So we were booked on a cruise to go with my granddaughters in the spring break. And she's like, Mom, I really want to look at these houses. And I'm like, go look at them. And I kept telling her, you're over my price range. I kept telling her, I said, listen, you're trying to buy a house that you can't afford the rent on. You need to be more into this category. It's not that I couldn't afford the house she was looking at. I can afford the house. I can buy it, but you're not going to pay that rent. And that's why I kept telling her, the rent on this house is more than if you find a house that's here. And that's why I kept telling her, says, this is the house you need to look. So finally, she started sending me these houses. We put 2 offers in on 2 houses that were declined offers, and they were overpriced. They're still for sale today. 60 days later, so it's still both of them for sale. So that tells you they're still overpriced. And they wouldn't come down. They were just over exuberant on their prices. And I said to them, I said, okay, well, she went to look at the house that we ended up buying. And I says, well, this is all I'll give. I won't give a dime more than this. It says, if he comes back, great, we'll buy it. So he did. And we closed on it and stuff, and we were there and stuff. And I said to her, I says, you know, it's this house. I says, you have to realize that what you have right here is not the norm for a rental property. So the process that you have to realize is that nobody's going to pay what you're paying, because it's not rental. I'm asking you to pay a premium because it's not a rental, because this is the house you wanted. If I was buying a rental property, I would have only paid for this house. I wouldn't have looked at a house that had these premium features, like granite counters. He had done granite counters in this house. He had done feature walls. He had done a shower that you could fit 10 people in. Not even kidding you. It was crazy. He had 3-panel floor to ceiling doors out to the backyard, a fire pit, a grill. And I said to her, I says, those are all primary residence people. I'm not looking for this. I don't want to buy this. But when she came to me with that, I was like, okay. So 3 days before we went on our cruise, she's like, Mom, this is the house. This is what the house, can you bid? So I bid on, accepted. And then I said to my real estate agent, don't contact me. Because for 10 days. 10 days. Don't contact me. I can't be reached. I'm out at
Right.
sea. There's no internet and I didn't buy internet and I'm not buying internet. So if there's any major thing you need to contact me, you're going to wait till this day. We come back. Here's our problem. We come back. And because we're doing a DSCR loan,
Mhm.
our rents come back low.
Mhm.
So we have to reevaluate. So for a week, we didn't think, we thought we were going to back out. We
Mhm.
actually even told our real estate agent the possibilities that we're going to back out is probably great because the numbers
Mhm.
aren't working for us. And so we went back to our DSCR loan, and I like him. He's through Uber or Zuber's uh, chat and
Referrals.
yeah, he's through the group, and I really like him. So I would always recommend Andrew. He's through Prime Equity,
Mhm.
California, and I says, and Uber or Zuber interviewed him. I says, he felt so bad because we were going to lose our 5% down that we put down on the house because
Mhm.
we did a non-refundable earnest money. And he
Mhm.
says, I don't want you to lose your money. What's going on? How can I fix this? How can I fix this? Well, our real estate agent had already felt bad about us losing because it's our first deal. We'd never bought a real estate or a rental. And he was already coming to the table saying, on your next deal, I'm going to comp you that money.
Mhm.
And so Andrew says, well, I'm not going to let you even lose that. What can I do? I'll split it 3 ways. You know, between your real estate, you and us, we'll split it 3 ways, but you're not going to lose your money. This, I'm so sorry. You know, he was like, whatever he could do that
Right.
to us. And I never expected that from our lender. And so me and I felt sick to my stomach. I went to bed that night, and the next morning I woke up and I says, let's just push forward. We'll make it work. If we can't rent it in a year, we'll sell it. We'll sell it.
Mhm.
But let's try. Let's try. I mean,
Mhm.
we already got the loan, we've already been approved, whatever, let's move forward. So we ended up coming back with our lender putting a little bit more down. So we put 35% down. 1 point and 12 months pre-penalty, which means we can't refinance for 12 months. And we got a 5.8.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we did, is that we kind of bought into that. It would have been closer to 6.5 without some of those,
Right.
concessions there. But we were willing to do that to just lock into this lower and just play it out for a year.
Mhm. Mhm.
Here's the thing, you either jump in or jump out. And
Right.
$5,000 was a lot to lose.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what everybody has to, they need to know their threshold of where they're willing to, jump over or jump back. And that's kind of where we were at, is we jumped over. I don't regret it. I mean, it worked out. My daughter is renting it. We did buy her house. We did, and we're in the process of buying another one, but I'm at a standstill right now. I'm taking a step back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just know that my investment is probably going to be, I want to listen. I want to observe. I want somebody to tell me about property management. I want them to educate me on maintenance and taking care of
Mhm.
property, especially out of state, which I
Mhm.
know you and Vincent are great at. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like just learning, just to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like many of us, like you're in the best place because if people don't know, we belong to one rental at a time community and it's $20 a month and it's less than what you would pay in coffee on for that month. So you can join as well. And then we have a great community with a lot of members that are willing to just like
You're amazing.
advice, give any referrals, walk you through, and we have constructors in our community. So if you have any question about construction, I use them, so you can too.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah,
But
I
I want
will
to,
say that I've learned so much from the community. If anything, that has been the most educational resource that I've ever been able to be a part of. Anything prior to this, I would say there was just hit and miss, even with, and I belong to Bigger Pockets, but not on their pro thing. I joined this one because I could relate to Zuber. He is so down to earth and just slow and steady, slow and steady,
A
slow and
real person.
yeah,
Just doing it.
exactly. So I would say I love the community that we belong to, and I think it's going in the right direction.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Renee, for commenting
Yeah.
on my channel. I hope to have you back. And
Oh,
we'll
thank you.
be keeping tabs with you. Obviously, we talk almost every week now.
Yes.
So, so please, if anybody has not liked the video or subscribed, please do subscribe. I will continue to bring more guests and different parts of their journey. Like Renee, she's just starting and then she's going to be updating us for everything that's going on. But thank you so much for coming on my channel.
Thank you, Lindsay. I look forward to it, and hopefully we'll talk tomorrow on Zuber.
Yeah.
Have a great afternoon.